Hey there. So you want to explore the Ismaili Path to Spiritual Enlightenment? Huh. Well, we're taking a deep dive into the Ismaili Path to Spiritual Enlightenment, a journey to the divine, to see what we can learn.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. What if I told you that enlightenment might not be about, running away from the world, but actually like engaging with it in a completely new way?
That's a really interesting idea. And this book, it really challenges that whole common thing that spirituality has got to be separate from daily life.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's start by talking about this concept of an inner light that's like guiding us. The book mentions Fitwa. What exactly is that?
So Fitra is this inherent yearning for something, bigger than ourselves. It's this longing for the divine that's like present in every soul. It's almost like a compass, always pointing us towards this deeper connection.
Okay. So it's like we all have this inner compass, but we might not always know how to read it.
Right. And that's where divine guidance comes in, especially from the Imam of the time.
Right.
He acts as a living guide, helping us to understand and interpret that inner compass.
Like he's reading the compass for us, in a way.
In a way, yeah. Helping us see what it's pointing to.
I see, yeah. It reminds me of the analogy the book uses in chapter 1, the candle in the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
The author talks about like experiencing a power outage as a child and how, overwhelming the darkness felt until a candle was lit. It's such a powerful image for how even a small light can like dispel a lot of darkness.
It is. Yeah, it really is. And it kind of beautifully illustrates the role of the Imam. Just as the candle illuminates a room, the Imam kind of illuminates the path to spiritual enlightenment, helping us understand and nurture that light that we have within ourselves.
So the Imam helps us see the path more clearly, basically.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's interesting because Imam Jafar al-Sadiq taught that wisdom's like a hidden pearl and we need guidance to find it. The Imam's role seems pretty similar here, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's not just blindly following, but it's about seeking and understanding with the Imam's help. And there's this really beautiful Quranic verse that states that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Surah An-Nur 24.35.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about the Imam as the representative of Allah, then he carries that light into the world and guides us on our path.
Oh, I see. So we've got this inner light and we have this guide, but how do we keep moving forward on this path? What's like the fuel that keeps us going?
Right. That's where knowledge comes in, but not just like any kind of knowledge. It's knowledge that serves as a pathway to, spiritual growth, helping us understand our place in creation and how we connect to the divine.
Yeah. Sometimes I struggle with feeling like I'm just acquiring information without really integrating it into my life.
I think we all struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah. Does the book talk about that at all?
It does. So in the Ismaili tradition, knowledge is seen as a means to an end. It's not just about, collecting facts, but about using them to actually transform ourselves, becoming wiser and closer to the divine.
I love that image in chapter 2, where the author talks about standing in this vast library surrounded by generations of knowledge. It's like we're each standing in that library trying to find the books that speak to our souls and help us on our individual journeys.
I love that. It's such a great image, and it connects to the whole idea of the Fatimid Dar al-Ilm, the House of Knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a place where people from like all faiths could come to learn, and not just, religious doctrine, but science, philosophy, medicine. They understood that all knowledge is interconnected somehow.
That's so interesting because like today, we have so much access to information, right? I mean,
Right.
libraries, the internet, we're swimming in it.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get lost in this sea of data without actually gaining wisdom, isn't it?
It is, and that's why guidance from the Imam is so important, right? He helps us sift through all that information and actually find what's truly meaningful for our spiritual growth.
Mm-hmm. So we've got the inner compass, we've got the guide, we've got the fuel.
Hmm.
But how do we stay connected to that inner light? Especially when, life just gets so busy and chaotic.
Yeah, it's easy to lose sight of that sometimes.
Totally. I mean, I feel like I get easily distracted and kind of lose sight of what matters.
I get that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And that's where the transformative power of zhikr comes in. It's about cultivating this state of remembrance, a constant awareness of the divine.
Could you maybe explain that a little bit more? I've heard of zikr, but I'm not sure I fully get it.
Sure, yeah. So it can take like many different forms. But at its core, zhikr is about anchoring our hearts and our minds to the divine. It can be as simple as whispering the name of Allah or just reflecting on his qualities throughout the day. The author of the book actually shares how finding solace in the words, Ya Allah, Ya Ali, Ya Muhammad, help them through a really challenging time.
So it's like you're creating a space for the divine in our everyday lives, even when it's chaotic.
Exactly. And the book also talks about how zhikr doesn't have to be a formal practice. It can be incorporated into like everything we do, you know.
Wow.
They actually share this story about Pir Shams who practiced silent zhikr, just transforming the whole atmosphere around him with his devotion.
Wow. It's amazing how a practice as simple as jik can be so powerful. But how do we actually, incorporate that into our daily lives? Do you have any tips or advice?
Well, I think even just starting your day with a few moments of zikr can set the tone for a more mindful and connected experience, you know? Try reflecting on your connection to the divine before you go to sleep, or even turning work into worship, by remembering Allah before you start each task.
So it's about making zikr like an actual part of our day and not just something we do separately.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes me think of that Quranic verse that says, "Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Surah Arad 13.28.
Right.
And when we connect that to the Imam, it takes on a whole other meaning.
Yeah, because he embodies zikr in like all of his actions, right? Serving as this constant reminder of the divine.
That's beautiful. So we have the inner light, we have the guidance, we've got the fuel for the journey, and we have the practice that helps us stay connected. But how do we take all this into like tangible action in the real world,
If where ethics comes in, the book really emphasizes how like true spiritual enlightenment, it shows up in our actions, how we actually live our lives.
Right. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And in chapter 4, the author tells this story about this young boy helping an elderly man carry these heavy bags through a busy market. It's like a small gesture, but it says so much about his character.
It's a good reminder that like all our actions matter, big or small.
Yeah, they really do. Makes me think of that Quranic verse, whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. Surah Az-Zalzala 99.7. It's emphasizing that even the smallest act of goodness makes a difference.
So it's not about these grand gestures, it's about the everyday choices we make.
Right. And the book goes on to talk about Imam Ali as an example. His whole life was about justice and mercy.
Yeah. I've always been struck by the story of his compassion for the thief. Even though the guy had stolen from him, Imam Ali focused on understanding why he did it, like addressing the root cause of the problem instead of just punishing him.
That's a powerful example of how we should approach justice. It's not just blindly following rules, but it's understanding those deeper principles behind them.
It makes me wonder how we can apply that kind of thinking to our own lives. How can we, strive to embody these divine values in our everyday actions?
The book gives some practical tips, like always trying to be truthful, showing compassion in our interactions, and engaging in service, for the betterment of humanity. It also suggests reflecting on our actions every day.
Yeah, those are good reminders. It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and kind of forget those core values.
For sure. And that's why the Imam of the time is so vital. He's like a living example of ethical conduct. He's showing us what it means to actually embody those divine qualities.
His actions speak louder than words.
Totally. And it all comes back to that Quranic verse that kind of lays out a blueprint for how we should live our lives ethically. Indeed, Allah commands justice, excellence, and giving to relatives, and forbids immorality, wrongdoing, and oppression. Surah An-Nahl 16.19.
It's about bringing those values into every aspect of our lives, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as we try to live ethically, we're not only elevating our own souls, but we're contributing to, a more just and compassionate world.
Okay, so we've talked about the Imam's guidance, the role of knowledge, the power of zikr, and living ethically. But life, it throws us curveballs. What happens when we face challenges on this path? Sometimes I struggle with doubt, especially when things aren't going the way I hoped.
Yeah, that's a really important point, and it's something the book explores in chapter 5. The author shares a personal story about facing unanswered prayers and how that led to like feelings of doubt. It's something I think we can all relate to.
Absolutely. It can be hard to keep the faith when it feels like our prayers aren't being answered, or when, like, life throws us a curveball.
It is. But the book highlights this really powerful Quranic verse, and it offers a different way of looking at things. And it may be that you dislike something while it is good for you, and it may be that you love something while it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2.216.
Wow. So sometimes what we think is bad for us might actually be good for us in the long run,
Exactly.
and vice versa.
Vice versa. That's a humbling thought.
It is. We don't always see the whole picture right.
Yeah.
But just knowing that there's a higher wisdom at play, even if we don't get it, it can be comforting.
It's about surrendering to that greater wisdom, even when it's hard. The book also talks about Imam al-Muiz, who faced so many challenges as a leader.
Yeah, he was surrounded by enemies, internal conflicts,
Yeah.
but he stayed strong in his faith, trusting the divine plan. He's a great example of how to get through difficult times with patience and wisdom.
Hmm. So how can we find that strength, that clarity when we're facing our own struggles? What does the book recommend?
Well, it tells us to, embrace the uncertainty, to remember that God's plan may be different from what we had in mind. It also stresses how important it is to stay connected to the Imam's teachings, because his guidance is like a compass when we're feeling lost. That makes sense. His farmans, they give us such helpful insights and perspectives when things are tough. And it's not just about, relying on the Imam, is it?
No, not just that. The book also reminds us that challenges, they can be opportunities for growth. It's about reframing how we look at our struggles and asking, what can I learn from this?
I like that. Shifting the focus from the hardship to the potential for growth.
Right. And finally, it reminds us that, we're not alone in our struggles. The Ismaili community is a source of support, wisdom, encouragement when we need it most.
It's a good reminder that we're part of a larger family, a family of faith, and we can lean on each other.
Exactly. We can share our experiences, support each other, and remember that even in the darkest moments, the Imam's light is always there.
Okay. So we've talked about the importance of the Imam's guidance, the role of knowledge, the power of zhikr, being ethical, facing challenges. But where does all this lead us? What's the ultimate point of this whole journey?
That's a great question. And it's what Chapter 6 is all about, awakening to divine reality.
Awakening to divine reality. What does that even mean? I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle to grasp what it truly means to, awaken to the divine.
It is a complicated concept, and the book has a really cool way of approaching it. It starts with a reflection on the nature of a river.
A river. Interesting. How does a river relate to spiritual awakening?
So the author talks about how a river, it just flows around obstacles effortlessly. It adapts its course without resistance. It's this metaphor for how we can approach our spiritual journey.
I see. So instead of fighting against life's challenges, we learn to flow with them, trusting in that divine guidance.
Exactly. And then the book shares the story of Nasir Khusra, who was this scholar and poet who had this really profound dream, and it led him to search for spiritual truth. And he eventually found guidance in the Ismaili Imam of his time. And he realized that, true awakening, it's about remembering what's always been inside us.
It's like uncovering a hidden treasure that was always there,
Yeah.
just waiting to be discovered. But how do we open ourselves up to this awareness? What are some things we can actually do?
Well, the book suggests a few things. First, it talks about being more mindful, throughout the day. It's about pausing, even just for a second, and remembering that the divine is present in everything. In every aspect of our lives, even amidst all the chaos.
It's like hitting the pause button on autopilot and actually being
Yeah.
present, right?
Exactly. It's about training our minds to see that the divine is all around us. The book also talks about deeper reflection, contemplating life's bigger purpose and our own spiritual aspirations.
So asking those big questions like, what am I really looking for? How can I make my life reflect that purpose?
Right. And of course, it reiterates how important it is to connect with the Imam.
His farmans are more than just instructions. They're like keys to unlock this deeper understanding of who we are and our relationship with the divine.
Yeah. And lastly, it talks about letting go of resistance. It's about trusting in God's wisdom, even when things don't go as planned.
Surrender. That could be so hard. But it seems like it's key to this whole journey. So what's it actually like to experience this awakening?
That's a great question. The book says it's not a one-time thing. It's a process, It's constantly unfolding.
It's a lifelong journey of growing closer to the divine.
And the Imam has such an important role in that. He's the mazhar, the living manifestation of divine wisdom, reminding us that we're not actually separate from God, but we're deeply connected to him.
His presence illuminates that connection.
Exactly. And as we keep seeking, reflecting, growing, we start to see that the divine isn't something outside of us, but it's actually the very essence of who we are.
Wow, that's a big shift in perspective. So we've explored all the key parts of this path: the Imam's guidance, the role of knowledge, the power of zhikr, living ethically, facing those challenges, and ultimately awakening to the divine. What guidance does the book give about how to, continue this journey and keep growing spiritually.
Well, the conclusion of the book reminds us that this is, a lifelong endeavor. The author has this beautiful reflection on how spiritual enlightenment isn't about reaching some final destination, but about embracing the process, having faith and walking the path, even when we don't have all the answers.
Trusting the journey.
Exactly. And the book shares this really powerful quote from Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, Aga Khan III. He said, "Strive always to improve your spiritual understanding. True success is not measured by wealth or status, but by the light within your soul."
It's a reminder that true wealth is found in our connection with the divine.
The Ismaili Imams have always guided their followers not just towards religious knowledge, but towards a way of being, a way of seeing the world through this lens of divine wisdom.
Their guidance helps us navigate those challenges, find our purpose, and connect with truth.
And the conclusion goes back to that central role of the Imam of the time in our spiritual journey.
He's the bridge to divine reality,
Yeah.
making sure that seekers are never lost in darkness.
He gives us wisdom when we're seeking knowledge, guidance when times are tough, and light when we're feeling lost. His presence shows us the way to God.
So how can we make sure that we keep going on this path with intention and purpose?
Yeah.
What practical advice does the book give us for keeping that momentum going?
Well, it encourages us to always keep seeking, knowing there's always more to learn, more to discover, more to understand about ourselves and how we connect to the divine.
It's a reminder that this journey of spiritual understanding, it's a lifelong thing.
And it talks about how important it is to nurture our relationship with the Imam. His formans are like a roadmap to that divine awareness. They offer insights and guidance for navigating, life's complexities.
And the book encourages us to practice gratitude, to see each moment as an opportunity for growth.
It's about seeing the blessings in the good times and the bad times, trusting that God's wisdom is always there, always working.
And lastly, it reminds us that spirituality isn't just about personal growth. It's also about lifting others up.
Yeah, it's about sharing our light with everyone, contributing to humanity, and living in a way that inspires the people around us.
So the Ismaili Path to Spiritual Enlightenment, it's an ongoing journey, a journey of learning, growth, and connection. It's about seeking guidance from the Imam, learning, finding peace in zhikr, acting ethically, navigating challenges with faith, and finally waking up to that divine reality within us.
The book ends beautifully, reminding us that we're not alone on this path. The Imam's light is always with us, guiding us towards a deeper understanding, a stronger faith, and a closer relationship with the divine.
And as we continue this journey, let's remember these words from the Quran. Whoever strives for us, we will surely guide them to our ways. Surah Al-Ankabut 29.69.
It's a beautiful promise. It reminds us that we're supported, guided, and loved every step of the way.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the Ismaili Path to Spiritual Enlightenment, we encourage you to think about what resonated with you today. What insights did you gain? What practices or ideas inspire you to deepen your own spiritual journey?
As you move forward, remember that this path isn't about reaching some end goal, but it's about embracing the journey itself. Walk with faith, seek guidance, and let the Imam's light illuminate your heart and mind.
May your journey be full of growth, understanding, and a profound connection to the divine.